Hello, welcome everyone.
Welcome to our monthly broadcast, our energies of the month. We're looking at, well, we're starting here, of course, on October 26th. We're actually going to look back a bit, and then we're going to look forward into the month of November. We're excited to be with you, and we want to offer a warm welcome for all of you who are joining us. Today, we're going to guide you through the significant energies of the upcoming month with an exploration of both the challenges and the opportunities that will be available for our use all month. And also, I want to say that, some of you are perhaps with us for the first time, or you've just joined our community, and we want to offer you a especially warm welcome and let you know that when you order your free report, and when you order your free report, you'll be given some information and welcome to our community. So even if you already have your human design chart, if you'd like to go online and order your free report, you'll get that welcome, and you will learn more about our community, what we offer, and what you can take advantage of our services. So our monthly broadcast was created to give you some advanced awareness of the moving energy cycles, both through the intricate human design matrix as well as through the astrological cycles. As we broadcast today, we happen to be in the closing of a monthly cycle with a new one beginning with the new moon in Scorpio. And that happens on Sunday night, Pacific time. So for Monday, it'll be Monday for most of the world. So before we look ahead into the coming month, what we want to do is just look back a little bit with you to the last quarter, so we get a sense of what the cycle is that's closing now, and then we'll look at the new cycle that's beginning for the month coming up. Are we ready? Okay. So we had a third quarter moon that happened on October 21st. And again, for those of you who are newer to our community, you haven't been with our broadcast for a while, what we look at, one of the things we look at many things, but one of the things is the phases of the moon, because they indicate the kind of cycles that we're in, the monthly cycles that we're in. So each month we have a new moon, and that begins a new cycle. It builds up to a first quarter and then a full moon. And in the full moon, the cycle comes to fruition. And then in the third quarter moon, we should be wrapping things up, completing, learning what we can learn from the cycle, and preparing for the next cycle. So this third quarter moon on October 21st happened with the moon at the latter degrees of the sign of Cancer, 28 degrees of Cancer, in, of course, a right angle to the sun in 28 Libra, which is what makes for the third quarter moon. And what that's going to give us is the drive to continue to put our new plans in motion and to get them implemented. The planet Mars, which has to do with our work in the world, has been in Libra for some time now, and it's not too happy there because Mars, its natural ruler is Aries. It wants to be doing, going, in action. And in Libra, there can be some indecision and some difficulty with taking action. Now, if you've been experiencing that throughout the month, that's what's caused it. And one of the things that's happening with let's just call it a little bit of a weaker Mars. It's not as direct, it's not as powerful as it is in some of the other signs. But it does have its purpose there in Libra, and it's to bring balance. One of the things that it's been doing is forming an exact right angle to the moving soul path for all humanity. And so we each have our own soul path, our own life direction, our own purpose for the lifetime. And humanity itself has a soul path. And this is what we're looking at right now. So Mars has just come and interacted with the soul path for all humanity in a way to catalyze realization, to catalyze change. and we can, what we can do with this is we might experience some hesitation, but we can allow that hesitation to either stop us or it can give us pause to more deeply consider and effectively plan our next course of action, the choices that we're going to make. The other thing that we have at this time is a lovely aspect that between the planet Venus, which is the planet of love and love and good fortune and abundance and beauty, together with Mercury, which is the planet of communication, in a really beautiful, I'm going to call it a triangle, but astrologers call it a grand trine, with some of the other planets that gives us the possibility to open to divine love and divine inspiration and allow that divine inspiration to guide our path in life. And of course, it always helps to align with your human design. So the more you're aligned with your design, you're living according to your design, the easier it will be for you to allow that guidance from divine love, from the highest inspiration to come through. So, and then we have also some other planets that are bringing in the practical aspects that lead us to recognize that the planning that we're doing right now really needs to be informed by our inspiration and our past experiences. So allowing ourselves to derive the meaning from our past experiences, get inspiration from them, and do very strategic planning according to what we've learned. Okay, so that takes us through. That's the third quarter. That's what we'll be working with until we have the closing into the new moon, which will happen on Sunday night. Chetan, would you like to say something about this time?
I tend to look at things from the human design perspective, which is a different perspective than astrology, but we often find when we look at things from our own views, astrological and human design, that we correlate the same information, the same viewpoints on things. So I'd like to open up this particular call with looking at the outer planets, looking at the kind of framework around us, what's going on in the world around us. And the planet Pluto is in this gateway number 61. And it's the gateway that sits in our crown center. It's a center of inspiration. And the 61 is the gateway of inner truth. And Pluto's going to stay there for the next 2 or 3 years. It's the slowest moving planet in our solar system, and it basically puts out what can I say, an energy of transformation. So all of us know throughout our lives, we've been told all kinds of things about where the world came from, where we came from, what our life is all about. And inevitably we come across certain things that really don't match up with our sense of reality. And so Pluto spending its time in the 61st gate, it's really telling us, time to really come into our own truth on things, to recognize those things that don't resonate with us. And there's this great opportunity to transform our points of view and therefore our whole lives around what it is that's actually truthful. The planet Neptune, it's in what we call a retrograde motion. It's backtracking on an area it was earlier on in the year. And in the whole of last year as well, it's in gateway number 63, which is the gateway of doubts. Now, Neptune has a lot to do with our spiritual concerns in this lifetime. And, exactly where do we source our truth? What is the truth of this universe, if you will? And we often say about Neptune, it's the planet of love for love's sake. There's no real reason behind it. It's just love is. And at the moment it's going through this 63, which is this gateway of doubts. And it's helping us qualify what in our life is real and what's not. What is it's aligned with our spiritual qualities in this life and what needs some readjustment. The planet Uranus is in gateway number 27 at the moment, which is in the sacral center in the human design chart. And the 27 is the gateway of nurturing, nourishing. And Uranus, we might say, is the Aquarian planet. It's the planet that was discovered in 1781. It began the kind of opening of coming into this Aquarian age. And Uranus is always trying to get us to move out of the humdrum, the perhaps lower frequencies, the places where we get stuck in our life, and it wants us to make a jump. It wants us to move out of a third dimensional view of things into a fifth dimensional view of things. And the 27, this gateway of nourishment, it's basically challenging us at the moment that what we have in our lives, is it nourishing us? So it's not just a case of what we're eating, what we're drinking, it's who we're hanging out with, it's the content in life we're reading, what we're ingesting. Are we spending all our time looking at our phone? Are we actually relating with the world? Are we relating with nature at all? How are we nourishing ourselves at the moment? And then the planet Saturn, which is our life's lessons, meditations, we might say our shadow nature of things, it's aligned with the South Node destiny for humanity. So we might say the South Node is where we are coming from. You know, what is the story of humanity? Where are we coming from? What are we aiming ourselves towards? And what we're aiming ourselves towards at this particular moment is gateway number 39, which is the gateway that provokes spirit. It reminds us of our spiritual qualities in life, our spirit nature. And, you know, spirit is not something that's particularly reasonable. Spirit doesn't necessarily live by a logical system in life. And so there's this whole challenge at the moment with Saturn just kind of rubbing things and just saying, are we absolutely clear what it is that we really want for ourselves in life? You know, have we forgotten all about our spirited nature? Are we just tied up with the material side of things? So that's a little bit of the backdrop of the ending of this month of October and as we go into the merry month of November.
So let's take a look at the new moon. And of course, as we're broadcasting here today on the 26th, we're just in that shadow where the moon is closing, and the new moon begins tomorrow, Sunday. It doesn't happen until 8:38 p.m. Pacific time. So for most people that in the eastern seaboard of the United States and Europe, etc., it's really going to be a new moon that happens on the 28th. But it's a new moon in Scorpio. And every new moon in Scorpio brings us into a period of self-transformation, or the opportunity is for transformation. The opportunity is to look deeply within. It's a natural part of the cycle that must happen in order for human evolution to be able to even take place. So we've come, you know, quite a bit through the year. We're in the closing of the calendar year. And as we do that, and the harvest has already happened, and the fall season has begun, or the, well, it would be the spring in the southern hemisphere, but the season has changed significantly. And we're now moving towards the closing of one cycle on a big level, the closing of a yearly cycle, and the beginning of a new one. So with that in mind, this period while the sun is in Scorpio, as a time of transformation, is for us to look at what has really worked for us in our life, what do we truly still value, what are the essential elements of our life that we're committed to, and what needs to go through a transformation. Now, this happens every year when the sun goes through Scorpio, but it's particularly strong at the beginning here, at the end of October and into the beginning of November, as the sun is forming an exact opposition to the planet Uranus. Now, Uranus, as Chetan was saying, is the awakener to higher states of consciousness. It does it by shocking us often. It brings revolutions. It brings whole new states of being. It awakens us to a higher possibility. Often what we experience when we're in resistance to that awakening is that our life will go through some traumas, some shocking events, some things that just shake us out of our normal sleepy way of moving through life, right? And wake us up. So we've got an additional energy really working with this new moon to shake us up, wake us up, to get us to really pay attention. And at the same time, we still have the energies I was talking about earlier with the planet Mars. Let's see, I think it's just, where is it in? Yeah, it's in the middle degrees of Libra at this time. So it's only about halfway through this period where it's taking us through a lot of adjustment around our values. What is it we truly cherish and value? As Chetan was saying, looking at gate 27, what's worth nurturing? What is worth nourishing? What's worth flourishing in our life? And what isn't? What are our true values? And what is our hierarchy of values? Have we got lost in the sort of milieu of the cultural sort of zeitgeist of our times, or are we living a life that's true to our nature and therefore making some sort of positive contribution to our world? The planet Neptune is interacting in a way with this moon that's saying, you know, it's time to really pay attention to following our higher inspiration and being clear about that and finding practical and effective ways of doing that. So it isn't just all conceptual, it's actually a living reality, becomes a living reality. So during this time, it's a time to really carefully weigh our options and really the necessity to find a life and work balance. Because if we don't, then the possibility is that we just explode in a lot of frustration. And that becomes, well, less than productive, let's just say that and leave it at that. When Mars on this day of the new moon has moved into now its exact square with Saturn, this brings the lessons home. So we've been working on them, we've been hearing them, we've been perhaps seeing the results, but this new moon actually lands in our consciousness the things that we must really pay attention to, we must learn, the things that we must improve in ourselves, in our lives. And that's going to go on all through the coming week. It's going to characterize this building of the new moon to the first quarter moon with this need to perhaps make some very important life decisions around all the things we've been talking about, what's important to us and what our direction really needs to be according to those values that are true for us.
So talking about the new moon, it's always fascinating to see in human design, where does this take place? You know, whereabouts in relation to our star system does this conjunction of the Earth, the moon and the sun come together? And it's in gateway number 28. And gateway 28 is the gateway in human design. We call it the game player, and the game is called life. And there's always a tendency to take life too terribly seriously. You know, there's always some kind of a drama or an upset or something very serious. And the older we get, the more and more serious things can become. And the nature of the 28 is to perhaps step back from that sometimes and just say, well, you know, maybe life isn't such a serious affair. Maybe it's more of a game. Maybe it's something more that we get to play in. So I'm just saying that it's about recognizing as this new moon comes about and we're entering into this month of transformation, that there really is this possibility of taking life less seriously and just seeing, okay, there's all kinds of challenges and things coming up in our lives. What do we do about it? Now, Carolyn and I, you know, I won't say our attention is totally fixed on the stars, but we are always kind of looking ahead a little bit, you know, seeing what it is that's coming up. And as we enter into November, you know, we kind of at least look a year ahead, perhaps 2 or 3 years ahead sometimes. And we see, you know, a year from now, November the 3rd, in the United States, there's going to be an election. And it's, you know, it's going to be quite an intense situation. And we kind of like to look and see, you know, what's the energies, who's going to be favored, you know, what's the situation around it all. And it's happening November the 3rd, which is kind of, normally it happens a little bit later, like 7th or 8th. And November the 3rd, there's a particular incarnation theme, a life theme of that time called incarnation. And what I sense with this is that there's a whole possibility of something very, very different taking place. And looking at the chart for that time, what's going to be in place is very much a sense of if the economy is doing well, if the world economy is doing well, people are happy with their lot financially, everything's going to progress very nicely. You know, that it'll really favor whoever it is promoting that for the best. But there's also this opening up into something very, very different. And so I would just say, you know, don't hold your breath, but it's a fascinating thing to watch as we're coming into November of this year to see what it is that's transpiring for the year ahead. So as we come into the month of November, we have a couple of activations that take place in the human design chart for everybody. We get, by transit, the sun has gone into gateway number 44, which means the moon is in gateway number 24. And all of us, by design, are getting this channel of 6124. And so likelihood is we're going to be getting quite a lot of, can I say, downloads, or our sense of truth is really going to be challenged. What is also taking place is there's a channel between the spleen center and the sacral center, the 57 to the 34, which is a channel we call the channel of empowering intuition. And we sometimes call it the channel of resurrection. It is such a powerful energy that we're looking at something and it's really not working well in our lives. And we somehow find the way to turn that energy around. And all of a sudden, something that we thought was dormant or dysfunctional, all of a sudden we start finding a way to make it work well for us again. So just to be aware of that as we're entering into the month of November, all kinds of things are going to start shifting. We're going to sense this sense of transformation. We're going to start getting new insights about things. And we're really going to see, wow, the path in front of us is opening up in a way that perhaps I was not expecting. Over to you.
Thank you. So let's move to the first quarter moon, November 4th. And here we have, so when we were looking at the new moon, we were seeing the planet Mars doing an exact right angle with Saturn and saying this is the time when the karma is really going to show up, when we're really going to see what is it that we need to truly address head on. What do we need to work through? And at the first quarter moon, the Mars is now moved to the exact right angle with Pluto in Capricorn. So the entire period from the new moon to the first quarter is fraught with a lot of pressure to make things work and to bring life into balance, to find that life-work balance or life-business balance. We're going to need to become aware of how our relationships, our love life may have suffered from lack of attention and care because we're so caught up with the doingness of life. And on a systems level, we have the need for major changes in our monetary systems, in our political systems, our governmental, our educational, our healthcare, our environmental systems, the structures that we've built our society on are all needing to go through systematic change.
They need to be desystemized.
Right. Hence the chaos that we're seeing now in the world, the lack of stability that we may all be feeling. I mean, you know, part of America's underwater. I mean, you know, fires are burning everywhere, earthquakes are going. I mean, you know, it's a very, very challenging time, fraught with some of the biggest decisions that humanity will come to for, you know, or has had to come to over even the last 2,000 years. So important time as we move now into the dawning of the age of Aquarius, a whole new age opening up where we need to simply do things differently. It's not that the old systems were bad, it's just that they were for an old age and for a place where humanity was in its evolution that it no longer is. So our systems now need to catch up with how we're evolving and how quickly we're evolving. At the first quarter moon, which happens in Aquarius, it will bring some light to some insight to, oh, aha, now I see what I need to do. I see clearly the transformation I need to allow to happen. I need to facilitate to happen. And that insight should be very welcome if we've been struggling with it at all. It's going to bring us the possibility for positive growth and perhaps inspiring leadership that helps us to align with our purpose as a nation and as a global community, as well as align with our families and our spiritual community. So the sun in Scorpio at this time, in this beautiful grand trine, we call it, astrologers call it, or grand triangle in the sky. The sun in Scorpio trining over to Neptune in Pisces. A trine is a very flowing kind of energy. It indicates ease and facilitation of energy. And then both of them also trining into the moving soul path for all humanity, which is in the sign of Cancer. So as the moving soul path for all humanity goes through the sign of Cancer for 18 months, and it's well through, it's past the halfway point now of that transit, what happens is that our focus becomes a bit more on family, community, home, and hearth, and the values that are intrinsic to our human nature. Even you could even include the values that lead us to the best opportunities for not only survival, but also for thriving. So we have this possibility to get the big vision, to get the high inspiration from Neptune, okay, higher spiritual awareness, to go through the transformation that the sun in Scorpio is bringing, and align with our values, the values that bring us balance in life and a life that can be very well lived and well supported. Mercury has gone into retrograde in Scorpio, and whenever Mercury is retrograde, basically what we have is about a 3-week period of time in which we're needing to review what we've done in the past quarter of the year. We need to look at what may be incomplete, what we need to go ahead and bring to a conclusion, finish things up. That communication that's hanging out there, that automobile servicing that you've needing to get done. I mean, mundane things like that, as well as things in your business that may have been laid aside because you're so busy, prioritize them, see what needs to get done, and go ahead and dive in and get those done, because what that does is it clears the energy. During this 3-week period, it clears the energy for new life, for new growth, and for a new cycle. While Mercury's retrograde in Scorpio, it's going back over our previously envisioned strategy and solutions. So we're seeing them now even more clearly. We're seeing what needs to be transformed in our lives. So then we can apply the strategy and the solutions once we're clear about where the transformation needs to happen, if that makes sense. Venus has now moved into the sign of Sagittarius and into this powerful triangle with Chiron. Chiron is the huge asteroid that functions more like a planet, that orbits between Saturn and Uranus, and it's the symbolized possibility for all humanity to align lower self and higher self, so that the soul wisdom starts informing the life more and more and more, rather than the personality being in charge, the ego being in charge. So with this beautiful trine from Venus, we have the opportunity to align our values and desires for what's healthy for us, and also ideally what's healthy for our environment.
So as we get going into the merry month of November, where Mercury did this turn. So Carola was talking about Mercury starting a retrograde, starting backtracking over that area of the sky through those star fields that it was in previously. It made the turn in gateway number 14. And gate 14 is the gateway of prosperity. And so prosperity is a sensation of, do I feel that I have this abundance in my life? Do I feel prosperous? If I have $1 in my pocket or $1 million in my pocket, is the sensation the same? Do I have that sense that everything's working well for me? And the fourth line here, which is where Mercury did its turn, is in the line called being secure. Personal security exists in having what you need. And there's this whole thing, you know, what we need, what we want. And this is saying really clearly, be clear that you have what you need in your life at this time. And this is going to be the energy of Mercury backtracking and just reviewing. Do I have in my life what I need? If I don't, what do I need to do about it? What needs to happen for this to be rearranged? So as we get into this month of November, we're in this particular life theme that we call the 4 directions. And the 4 directions gives us this opportunity to, at one time, be very extrovert, and another time to be very introvert. So in this flavor of Mercury doing the turn and backtracking over areas of our life, we're going to have an opportunity to review what it is we've been doing and to perhaps change our directions on certain things that we have been doing. There's a lot of energy around. As I said, as we entered into this month, there's this power to bring back to life things in our life that haven't been working really well, to kind of reestablish ourselves in our own world, and at the same time to allow these downloads to keep coming through for us. So what happens in this, towards the end of the first week in November, we get access to another transit, and this is the transit between Saturn and the Saturn in gateway number 54 and the gateway number 32. So gateway number 32 is the gateway of what it is that endures, what it is that endures in life. So this whole channel is this channel we call transformation, right? The channel of transformation. And transformation is basically this commencement of the entrepreneurial stream. So we get, and let me just check the dates on this, from the 4th all the way through the 14th, we get this enormous drive from Saturn on the one side and Mars pushing us on the other side. And it's for us to recognize what in our life we want to further. What do we want to be furthering in our lives? So during this time, this particular channel is in place, and at the same time, the sun moves on into gateway number 1, and it does this around the 6th and 7th of November. And gateway number 1 opens up the life theme we call the Sphinx, and the Sphinx is about plotting our course, plotting our direction. So we've had this Mars turn where we've been questioning our sense of prosperity. Do we have what we need? We've had this movement of the 4 directions where we're perhaps being more extrovert or more introvert at various times, looking at what it is that's going on in our life. And all of a sudden we're plotting our course. And plotting our course through gateway number 1, which is the gateway of creativity. So that is setting the stage, the end of the first week, you know, what it is that we're going to start creating in our lives now. Over to you.
Okay. So the next thing that happens is that we have the full moon in Taurus on November 12th, opposite the sun in Scorpio. And that full moon has Mars now in Libra in the last week of its transit of Libra, which we're really looking forward to experiencing, because then it's going to move into Scorpio, where it's really highly effective. As it comes into the last degrees of Libra, it's forming a sextile with Jupiter, and that happens right at the full moon. So it's just leaving that right angle with Pluto that we talked about that would catalyze the transformation that needs to happen. Clarity hopefully has come to us, and this would be in terms of our work in the world or our business and our business direction. The clarity has arrived. It's time now to plan for new endeavors and plan for the new cycle ahead. Now, Mercury's still retrograde, so it's time to plan, not implement. It's time to get the vision about our next work and business endeavors, and the direction will most likely arrive right around the full moon. It still won't be quite time to actualize it, but it's going to be very close. And that's, Mercury being retrograde means that there's just more refinement that's going to be needed before new actions are initiated. So the full moon at 19, almost 20 degrees of Scorpio, also conjoining Mercury in Scorpio as it opposes the moon in Taurus. Also, Mercury and the Sun together in Scorpio in this beautiful triangle with Neptune and some other aspects that are really positive aspects for good use of practical resources in our life. So we've got the vision with the Neptune. We have the awareness of it with the Sun, Mercury coming together in Scorpio. We're in a cycle of transformation. And what we also get to experience now is, the possibility for the good use of the information we have, the research we've done, that blended with the inspired vision, we can create a really practical, actionable plan for future success. So what's interacting with the full moon is the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn, but here not receiving a challenge as it has been from Mars, but actually in a triangle aspect, a flowing aspect, saying, okay, and now here's how you structure it. Take the vision, but do the practical research, make the practical steps, have a real clear, and as I said, actionable plan that will ensure your future success. So as Mercury continues its retrograde, journey through Scorpio, the potential is to learn from past, I'm going to say, mistakes, past, life is about learning, right? It's a process of growth, of evolutionary growth, of learning. And ideally, it's a process of gaining greater and greater wisdom and greater alignment with our higher truth. So when we learn from our past mistakes, then we can use that passion for the drive that is going to be available as Mars goes into Scorpio, to let that really inform our next path, our work, what we're going to be doing with our lives, and how we're going to be now addressing the work that we do in the world. So we want to be careful not to let passion rule the process. And remember to take the time to wrap up the old, complete the incomplete business matters. This is really important. Follow up with the incomplete communications. Get those all wrapped up. Get your plan well structured, well researched, and be ready, because we're going to see a time in which there's a tremendous opportunity for a lot of positive growth. That said, Venus also, Venus, the planet of love and values, in a right angle with Neptune and Pisces. And it's just giving us a little tap on the shoulder saying, now resist the temptation to sacrifice your values in service to your desires. Okay, to sacrifice our values in service to our desires, because we all are subject to this learning. So if it's right and you build it, well, as you know, if you saw the movie The Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. If it's right and you build it, they will come. So keep that in mind as you're doing all this planning before you get into the execution phase. Okay, over to you.
So on this full moon, again, it's always fascinating to see who's involved, what's involved in this. And in human design, the sun has moved into gateway number 43, which means the Earth is in the 23. And with the full moon being behind the Earth, we're going to be at full moon in gateway number 23. So those of you that are familiar with human design, we know that when the sun's in the 43, we get the whole channel of 43-23. So this is a very individual channel. It's an individual channel of expression. It gives us a voice of expressing pure insight. And the thing about insight is it's not necessarily logical. It's not necessarily something that makes sense. It's not something that has a historical precedent. It's just something out of the blue. And so around this full moon and for the month afterwards, we might find ourselves saying things that actually surprise us sometimes. Where did that come from? How did I find myself saying this? Now, the second line that this 23 has, where the full moon takes place, is the line that's called tolerating, naturally relating to circumstances from a personal resolve. Mm. So, you know, when you find yourself saying something and everyone goes, huh, you know, why are you saying this? You know, this doesn't fit in the context of things we've had before. There can be that sense of challenge. Oh, you know, am I really talking nonsense? You know, should I rearrange my script or say things in a completely different way? So the thing about life is, you know, we only come here to be ourselves. Strange as that may be sometimes, because everyone's got such great ideas for us. You know, you should be doing this, you must do that. Everyone else is trying this. And so here, with this full moon, we have this opportunity to really kind of get on the page with our own life. If I say, you know, we've only really come here to be ourselves, to be a player in this drama on this planet Earth, why are we so caught up in playing everybody else's games for them? You know, why are we still following everybody else's belief systems and ideas and concepts of what's supposed to be happening here? Nobody knows. You know, we're just tiptoeing out of the dark ages now. We're coming back into this plate of light. And everything is on our side now to make this massive shift in our consciousness. So I'm just saying, you know, enjoy this full moon. Enjoy this full moon in the sun in Scorpio and the moon in Taurus. And just see what it is that comes from this.
Allow this process, right? Allow it. Embrace it even.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And if you say something a little bit funny, you know, maybe it is funny. Maybe it's worth laughing about. But also see, you know, maybe this is truth that's in some way wanting to express itself through me at this time. And I'm saying at the same time, we've still got this channel of transformation. This is a channel that's kind of shaking up the odds for everybody at the moment. You know, what is it that we really want to put our energies towards? What wants to come from inside me to put out into this world? What's the unique thing I'm playing and offering to this world? So that's the energy I see a little bit around this full moon.
Powerful full moon. And it'll be beautiful. In the Northern Hemisphere, you know, it's just after the harvest moon that happens in October. So we still have generally a really bright orange orb in the heavens. So if it's not too cold where you are, get outside at night and away from the city lights and see the stars and be under the moon a bit and just really feel the energy, which is powerful, that magnetic energy of the moon, which is, you know, bringing us nurturing, bringing us cultural and nurturing that we all can benefit from, no matter what our beliefs, no matter what country we live in, no matter what, as Chetan was saying, our economic status might be. Let's take a look now at the third quarter moon that happens on November 19th. So we're just following the natural progression and movement of the energy. So from the full moon, which brings to fruition all the learning and all the potential of the cycle that was initiated at the new moon. Now the third quarter moon is saying, all right, so it's now time to begin to wrap up this cycle, finish everything that was envisioned, bring it to some stage of completion, make adjustments. It's a lot about, third quarter moon's a lot about making whatever adjustments need to happen. And it really is the last big energetic push to complete the experiences and the learning and plan out the necessary actions that you'll be taking. Now, we're not going to take those actions quite yet, because in this case, normally we would at a third quarter. But in this case, Mercury's still retrograde, so we're still winding up unfinished projects and communication. But the clarity and the commitment to the new path should be arriving around this third quarter moon. Mercury at 11 to 12 degrees of Scorpio on this day is what astrologers call stationary. So it's standing absolutely still as viewed from Earth. And it will turn direct, back into direct motion on November 20th. But it'll be slow. So Mercury, as it moves into its retrograde and then comes out of it, is moving very, very slowly, meaning that we need to move more slowly. We need to be more careful in our planning, more certain in our footing before we leap ahead. So take the time, make sure the plans are good, they're clear, they're actionable, and you are in alignment with them, and they are informed from your higher self, and you're clear. So this grand trine that I've been talking about with the nodal axis of the moon and Neptune now is really, really a tight grand trine with Mercury, who's been retrograding in Scorpio. So, so we have another opportunity to take advantage of this big grand triangle, this cycle of opportunities, the higher vision from Neptune, the inspiration that can come through, and the way to see our path clearly as to how we will implement according to the values that we have gotten clear are important for us. That's the essence of this time. Then Mars in Scorpio, yay, where it loves to be. It moves into Scorpio on November 19th. So that's at this third quarter moon. And it's generally very, very happy in the sign of Scorpio. But it's also approaching the exact opposition to Uranus in Taurus. And if you remember, when we had the new moon on October 27th, it was the sun and the moon that were in that opposition to Uranus and Taurus as they moved into Scorpio. So that was that shake up, wake up. So now Mars is going into the same placement where it's going to be opposing Uranus and Taurus, which brings a sense of urgency and sometimes necessitates even extreme and maybe powerful actions that break through the status quo. So don't be afraid to really color out of the lines, to really do something radically different, to take a 90-degree turn, to take the road less traveled. Don't be afraid to do that. If it's your higher guidance and you're clear about it, go for it. This is the time to break with the status quo and forge your way according to your higher guidance. I mean, we've been watching in the primary debates, which are complete now, but we've been watching Marianne Williamson, who is, as I'm sure most of you know, quite a leader in the spiritual awakening community, has been for 25 years. And here she is running for president. Talk about moving into the age of Aquarius. And we've been watching this phenomena of her bringing through this profound inspiration and truth. And all of America is hearing it. Now, they might not be resonating with it, they might not be agreeing, and it's brand new information to them, but they are hearing it, perhaps for the first time. And it is making an impact. If you remember back in, was it September, where she got a standing ovation in the primaries in what state was it?
New Hampshire.
In New Hampshire.
Yeah.
I mean, this is America on its feet, applauding, wildly applauding a spiritual wisdom teacher as a leader. So anything's possible, folks. Take out all the stops. Anything's really possible. Let the change happen. It's all good. It's all for our good. Venus in the latter degrees of Sagittarius now, conjoining Jupiter in Sagittarius and moving into a trine with this full moon, bringing creativity and high vision for our future growth and a desire for adventure in its new learning, and all of that happening just as the sun is about to go into Sagittarius November 22nd. Okay, over to you.
So looking at this point in time in the month, we keep getting these transits. We've had this transit of downloads. We've had this transit of expressing things. We've had this energy to really dig within ourselves and find out what we want to put into our life. You know, what is our uniqueness that needs to be presented? What's the picture we're painting in our life? And at this moment in time, towards the latter part of the third, well, you were saying the third quarter of the moon, we have around the 19th, we have two more transits that are going on for us. We got the 50 to the 27. Now, I talked earlier about the 27, that Uranus is in the 27, Uranus encouraging us to nourish ourselves in ways that are appropriate for a shifting consciousness. Right? Uranus is the planet that wants us to make a jump. And the 50 is being activated at the moment. It's activated by Mars. Carola was just saying Mars gone back into Scorpio. It really loves to be there. It's probably had some challenging moments in these last days. You know, getting us to kind of really accept there's something unique for us to produce into this world here. We're not just following somebody else's footsteps or, you know, being pushed along by something or other. We have something within ourselves that wants to come out here. And this channel, the 5027, is the channel of nurturing and nourishing, caregiving and caretaking. It's a great time in life to really be saying, am I looking after myself? Yes, I'm performing all these things in life. Am I really taking care for myself, my family, my community, you know, taking care of the needful like that? And Mars getting more and more active in this realm, bringing about the potential transformation. And this shift of Mercury at the moment, you know, it's been apparently going retrograde from our point of view, covering ground, getting us to rethink things, review things, redo our communications in a way. And it does a station now before it starts turning forwards again. And it does that in gateway number 44. And 44 is a gateway of patterns. It's about seeing how all the threads of life come together and how they make up a weave. You know, what makes up this picture around us? How did I get to be here? And it has particularly to do with the people that come in and out of our lives, this kind of recognition, who's with me, who's not, who am I here to serve, who are the people that are here to serve me. And so what I'm going to say at this particular time when Mercury is doing its turn, it's recognizing, who's my team? You know, who are the people in my life that really matter to me, that I'm really going to extend myself for? So that is the energy in this third quarter moon as we go forward. Nourishing, nurturing, you know, if somebody's with me, I'm really going to look after them. I'm going to rely on other people if they're with me to look after me as well. That is the nature of this particular energy at this particular time. One more thing, the nodes. The nodes for humanity have made a shift. They were in the 38 and the 39. The 38 was all about human rights and, you know, challenging what is fair and what's not. The 39 I was talking earlier was kind of provoking us to look more towards our spirit nature. And now they've shifted into the 58 and the 52. South node, the 58, the gateway of joy, vitality. 52, the gateway of stillness, where we're going to, is finding that calm in the chaos around us. What I say about the 58, and that's the energy that goes forward for the next 2 or 3 months. The nature of the 58 is what gets you jumping out of bed in the morning. You know, are you involved in things? You know, remember when you were a kid, it's like, wow, you know, can't wait to get out and play. And, you know, as we get older, things get, oh, you know, it really isn't. So here's the flavor, you know, are you aligned with something that gets you jumping out of bed in the morning? And I'm going to leave it at that.
Right. And that comes back to finding our work or adjusting our work, the work we do in our world, to a way in which we're truly loving what we do. So we'll be broadcasting again on November 23rd, but we'll just take a quick look at the upcoming new moon that happens on November 26th, which is, it happens at the closing of the cycle of Scorpio, the sun having moved into Sagittarius, and then the new moon as the sun and moon come together at 4 degrees of Sag. So with this new moon, it's in a triangle with Chiron, planet Chiron. And I call it a planet because astrologers really read it as a planet.
It's a big rock.
It's a huge asteroid, and people and astronomers thought it was a planet before they downgraded it to an asteroid, but astrologers don't agree. Anyway, because it's that principle of linking higher self, lower self and higher self.
Well, it orbits between Saturn. It kind of dips in and out of the orbit between Saturn, which is all about rules and regulations, and Uranus, which is all about busting out into another dimension.
Exactly. Yeah. So it does link the higher self with the lower self if we will consciously go through that process. So the new moon, almost exactly in this triangle with Chiron, saying, "Here's the opportunity." Just all you need to do really is allow, know your truth, find your truth, use your human design, live your human design so that you can begin living your truth and awakening to your truth. And then honor your truth. Honor your truth by applying it in your life.
All you need is love.
Yeah, there you go. So a great new moon coming up on the 26th. Yes, there'll be some challenges because there always are. We'll be talking about those as we broadcast on the 23rd, going into more detail about them. But also, it's a big opportunity cycle opening here at the new moon on the 26th of November. As I said, we'll be back with you on Saturday, November 23rd, for an in-depth look at the upcoming month of December and some surprising, very positive energies at the end of November. And for Americans, of course, the Thanksgiving holiday.
I'd like to interject a couple of things about the human design because, there are certain things that stir me when I see them in a chart. And the sun has gone into, by the time the month is coming to an end, 24th, 25th, the sun has gone into gateway number 34. It's the gateway of power. And that indicates the earth is in gateway number 20. So all of us are going to start finding ourselves a little busy. I mean, it generally happens in America anyhow around Thanksgiving and Black Friday and all that stuff. But what is also fascinating happening at the same time is Jupiter and Venus simultaneously go into gateway number 10. And those of you that are familiar with the human design chart, that this is part of what we call the integration circuitry. And the integration circuitry involves us being very, very strong in our backbone. Integration is like the spine is what holds us all together. And so energetically, the inference here is to be really, really clear in what it is we're putting our busyness, our energy towards. Are we coming from a place of love? Are we coming from a place of committing to our higher principle? Are we coming from a place of following our own truth? So I'm going to leave it on that, and just to say that's how I see the month ending out. Fascinating to see that. Just for you to see, we do broadcasts on Facebook, Human Design for Us All. That is our moniker there. And our Twitter is Human Design Book. So you can find us there if you'd like to join in and comment with us.
And our monthly broadcast is open and complimentary to all. You're very welcome to come. You're very welcome to invite your friends and people you feel might benefit. As well as, we encourage you to continue your exploration of human design by ordering your comprehensive report, which you can do on our homepage at humandesignforusall.com. humandesignforusall.com. And you'll find it on the homepage, along with some other resources for you. It's been wonderful to be with you once again this month, and we will see you next month.
All right. Bye for now.